If I was in the inmate's shoe, I would order caviar from the Black Sea and hope that they would take a long time to bring it.
In Florida, inmates can order food with a maximum cost of $40. In Oklahoma, the limit is $15.
Of course, it won't take it long before all it is stomach contents on an autopsy report.
Once, Brian was allowed to eat one of the last meals he had prepared.
For most prisoners who are condemned to be executed, they are given the opportunity to make one last meal request.
And some prisoners choose to have a full-on feast, while others prefer something a little bit lighter.
But then there are those strange final meal requests that make your head spin. Well, how's it going, you guys? I'm Landon Do Not Sing, and today we have
Kelly from Top 5 Scary Videos.
Who doesn't have a last name?
My name's I'm just
Kelly.
Kelly. It's like Cher, but like less impressive. Kelly Pally. I'm also from Top 10 Nerd and Top 10 Gaming. So hey guys, how's it going?
So make sure you guys check it out. You guys should check out my favorite one out of all those channels right now is the Top 5 Scary Videos channel. You guys can click right over there. The channel's doing really good right now, and actually it's getting more subscribers a day than this channel, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, and like we talk about some really scary stuff. Like right now, I'm writing a video that's Top 5 haunted asylums, like insane asylums, all over the world, and like the stuff that went down there.
Yeah.
Ooh,
and these guys love scary, so that's like just a dedicated channel to scary.
Come on over and hang with me and Jack. It'll be a super fun time, and it'll creep you out a lot.
Alright, so let's get into this one. This is the top 10 shocking last meal requests by an inmate. If you guys had one last meal, what would it be? Let us know in the comment section below. Me, craft dinner in a cup. I'm simple.
Mine would totally be chicken wings. I love chicken wings.
Okay.
With like Parmesan cheese and like garlic sauce over top of them, and like a blue cheese dip. 100%. Just like full dairy on those wings.
Eat that and then die.
And then die. I'd be satisfied with my meal at least.
Alright, so starting off our list, in at number 10 we have Ted Bundy's last meal request. Alright, so what did this notorious serial killer request for his final meal? Absolutely nothing. Is this real life right now? You have the opportunity to satisfy every taste bud in your mouth, and you choose to eat nothing. I would be taking full advantage of this privilege if it was me, but nope, Ted Bundy refused to make a last meal request, so he was given the standard final meal, which was a medium rare steak, eggs over easy, hash browns, toast with butter and jelly, milk and juice. But actually he refused to eat that too. I think the worst thing about being executed, not that I have any experience, but is being executed with an empty stomach.
Alright guys, moving on to number 9, we have Victor Feuger. Victor was the last federal inmate to be executed in the United States prior to the moratorium on the death penalty, thanks to Furman versus Georgia. He's also the last person to be put to death in the state of Iowa. So, what got him the death penalty? He had randomly searched up doctors in the phone book, calling them alphabetically until he got one. He stumbled upon Dr. Edward Bartels. He told Bartels that he was with a woman who was ill and needed immediate treatment. But when Bartels arrived at the room that Victor was renting, Victor kidnapped him and then killed him with a single gunshot to the head, leaving his body in a cornfield. So, what was 28-year-old Victor's last meal request? Definitely was not corn. It was a single olive with the pit in it. Why? Well, he allegedly told guards that he hoped an olive tree would sprout from his grave as a sign of peace. After he was pronounced dead, authorities later found the olive pit in one of his suit pockets.
Coca-Cola and Pepsi slurps their way into number 8. William Bonin was found guilty of assaulting and killing at least 21 people, but that number could have been even higher. He spent 14 years on death row before he was executed by lethal injection at San Quentin State Prison back in 1996. But before his execution, he made one final request. He wanted 2 large pizzas, 3 pints of ice cream, and 3 6-packs of Coke and Pepsi. I'm not sure why he wants to mix the two, maybe he's doing the Pepsi challenge. I guess he wanted to settle the Coke versus Pepsi debate once and for all. I mean, if the lethal injection didn't kill him, the super high sugar content of his meal probably would have. Alright, James Edward Smith digs himself in at number 7 on our list. He was executed in June of 1990 for shooting a man to death during a robbery of some offices inside of the International Trade Center building in Houston. Smith used to be a loving and kind person until he started to practice black magic, voodooism, and witchcraft. He even admitted to participating in 6 ritualistic killings before he was arrested. So when it came time for him to select his final meal, he asked for a lump of dirt. I kid you not. He apparently needed this dirt to perform some sort of voodoo ritual, but obviously his request was not not fulfilled. Could you imagine it was like, what would officers really do? Put dirt on a plate and serve it to him? Surprisingly, dirt was not on the list of foods approved by the prison system, and I wonder why. So instead, the officers gave him yogurt because it was the most similar thing to dirt. I don't know if I agree with that. I wonder if he was still able to perform his voodoo ritual.
Alright, and at number 6 we have Timothy McVeigh. McVeigh is one of the most despicable homegrown American terrorists to date. The things this guy did was just like awful. So terrible. So, back in 1995, he bombed the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, which is now known as the Oklahoma City bombing. This led to the deaths of 168 innocent people, some of which included young children, and it also injured over 680 others. Now, prior to September 11th, this was the biggest bombing in American history, and it was spawned out of McVeigh's disdain for the government due to the events of the 1992 Ruby Ridge incident and the 1993 Waco siege, both of which had ties to white supremacists, just like McVeigh himself. Now, when he was convicted at the age of 33, he was sentenced to death by lethal injection. So, what was his final meal request? He requested 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream. I mean, I guess if you're on death row, you might as well go all out for your final meal, even if it means going all out to satisfy your sweet tooth.
I think that's so awesome, but I would be crapping myself because I'm lactose intolerant, but it would be worth it though, because I don't know what would come first, me using the bathroom or me being executed. And that's probably a very bad thing to say. Robert Buell makes it onto this strange list in at number 5. He was sentenced to death for the murder and assault of an 11-year-old girl back in 1982, and he maintained his innocence despite being sentenced to 121 years in prison. Well, for his final and last meal request, he decided to go very expensive and lavish. This is what I would do. I would get the most expensive craft dinner in a cup. Well, for Robert Buell, he requested a single black olive. I mean, way to spoil yourself there, buddy. In all seriousness, what is up with the black olive? I mean, if you're going to get a single olive for your last meal, you should at least choose the king of all olives and pick a green one. Apparently, he was very specific and wanted the pit removed as well. Could you imagine if he dropped his olive on the ground? How sad would that be? I don't know if the 5-second rule applies in prison. You never know what crawls on the ground there.
Alright, moving on to number 4. And at this number, we have the last meal of one of America's most notorious criminals, John Wayne Gacy. Now, if you're unfamiliar with his crimes, Gacy was a serial killer and a rapist. He sexually assaulted, tortured, and murdered at least 33 teenage boys and young men between the years of 1972 and 1978, all within his Illinois ranch house, where he had buried most of the bodies in his crawl space too. Ugh, gross. So, what was his final meal? Something that actually wasn't all that gross, but kinda hefty. It was 12 fried shrimp, a bucket of original recipe KFC chicken, french fries, a pound of strawberries, odd choice, and a Diet Coke. Now, before Gacy was convicted, he had apparently managed 3 KFC restaurants. Guess he grew a taste for the finger-licking goodness. He was also allowed to have his final meal alongside his family at a private picnic on the prison grounds. Wonder if he shared any of that chicken. Alright, up next, number 3. It isn't just a meal request, it's dinner and a movie. Ronnie Lee Gardner, who was put to death by firing squad for his crimes, which included 2 counts of murder, had a special request for his last meal. What'd he get? Well, steak, a lobster tail, an apple pie, a glass of 7-Up with a side of vanilla ice cream. But he wanted to eat it while watching all of the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Alright, I don't know why I find this funny, but this guy's gonna be eating for a whole freaking day. That is a lot of ice cream.
9 hours? 12 hours if it's the extended cut.
Yeah, we're going for the short version because I can't eat for 12 hours, but I can do it for 9.
9? Yeah, you make it work. He also requested a copy of the book Justice Divine to read prior to a 48-hour fast after his final meal. So, 9 hours Lord of the Rings, binge eating, and then fasted for 48 hours. Which, according to his lawyers, Gardner's choice to do this was motivated by spiritual reasons, as was his choice to be killed by firing squad rather than lethal injection. Gardner's death penalty sentence sparked a lot of debate about the cruelty of capital punishment, and the night before his execution, protests actually broke out at the Utah State Capitol.
One of the biggest last meal requests comes onto this list at number 2. Lawrence Russel Brewer went all the way out for his last meal request. No, seriously, he did not hold back. Are you guys ready for this? He ordered 2 chicken fried steaks and sliced onions dripping in gravy, a triple meat bacon cheeseburger because why not, with everything on the side, 1 cheese omelet with ground beef, tomatoes, onions, bell peppers, and jalapenos. Gotta get those jalapenos on there, a big bowl of fried okra with ketchup, 1 pound of BBQ meat, and half a loaf of white bread, 3 fajitas with all the toppings, and a Pizza Hut meat lover's pizza, a pint of vanilla vanilla ice cream, a slab of peanut butter fudge with crushed peanuts, and 3 root beers. Holy crap, can you guys say diabetes? This is insane. This guy is going to kill himself before they're able to kill him. Maybe this was the plan. Maybe he is a genius. Well, when it was time for him to dig in, he actually refused to eat, saying that he wasn't hungry at all. What a troll. Well, I bet there was no delays to getting him to the electric chair after they made the prison scramble to achieve his last meal request. And actually, because of this, Texas no longer grants inmates on death row a final meal request. Way to ruin it.
And last but not least, we have another hefty meal in at number 1. Except this guy actually ate all this food. Stephen Michael Woods Jr. was killed in Texas by lethal injection in 2011 after he was convicted of the murders of a 21-year-old drug dealer and the drug dealer's 19-year-old companion in 2001. After being incarcerated, Woods was active in prison strikes and protests against the treatment of death row inmates, and even petitioned various media outlets on the subject. His whole sentencing was surrounded in controversy and was reported on worldwide. He even had Amnesty International up in arms. When he was killed, his last words were, "You're not about to witness an execution. You are about to witness a murder." Intense. So, what did Woods have for his last meal? Dude went all out. 2 pounds of bacon, a large 4-meat pizza, 2 drinks of Mountain Dew, Pepsi, root beer, and sweet tea, 5 chicken fried steaks, 2 hamburgers with more bacon, a side of fries, and a dozen garlic breadsticks with marinara dip on the side. And for dessert, 2 pints of ice cream. Not too shabby. Guess you don't have to worry about pooping when you're dead.
Alright, what a crazy list. So much food, and is there a limit on what you can order? Can we order some liquor? I'd want to be hella drunk if I'm about to go get the lethal injection.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that would make it worse. I don't know.
Make it worse. You get the spins. You're like, shouldn't have done this.
And then you throw up because of all the food you ate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's one way to go.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much to Kelly for helping out with this video. You guys should check out her top 5 scary videos channel.
Come on over and hang out with us. We do a lot of creepy content, and we talk about a lot of inmates too. Famous last words, all that fun jazz. Come on over and hang.
Well, thanks for watching this video, guys. I'm Landon.
And I'm Kelly Pally.
And we'll see you guys all in the next Most Amazing Top 10 video.
Bye, guys.
You'll see me, not...
Yeah, you'll see him, probably not me.
Not her.
Sometimes I pop by.
Yeah.